Today we've been at a venue just near Stour Bridge. Craig Chamberlain does a lot of ride days here. I think it's a 300-acre venue. Lots of cool places to go and ride. And today we've been blessed by riding the KX250X and the KX450X. So these bikes are basically designed for riders that normally take a motocross bike and go and compete in cross-country events, and I can see why the manufacturers are basically taking their motocross bike and making small changes and offering the machines to their customers. It makes perfect sense. So as tracks change, venues change, it does seem that more people nowadays do more like to have that motocross feel in an enduro bike.
Cross-country enduro, or classic enduro as I'd call it. Over here it'd be described as the sort of the high-speed stubble type races. America it'd be the GNCC. That mode of racing is getting more and more popular, and we had people riding motocross bikes in them and doing really quite well. The base model, if we look at the changes that there are, they're not huge, but they're important. So with a standard bike, we've obviously still got all of the infrastructure and the architecture, if you like, of a standard bike. So with a KX range, we have 4 positions that we can adjust the handlebars to, 2 positions we can adjust the foot pegs to make it fit the rider between, 5'6" and 6'4", etc. The biggest changes to make it more enduro-esque is the tyre and wheel equipment. Same size wheel on the front, but changed to Dunlop 81, smaller rear wheel, and you know what that's like. If you look at mountain bikes now, mullet fashion is the key. Big front wheel, smaller back wheel, easier to change direction, less gyroscopic mass, etc. But when we go to the AT81 rear tyre, it's a wider tyre than the motocross one, which helps us find some grip over roots, etc. We soften off the springs, but change the damping to suit the style of riding. So the easiest description would be the high-speed compression damping on the back. On the motocross bike, we need it there to absorb that initial impact of coming down from a 10-foot, 12-foot, 20-foot jump. We don't need that for this bike. So we open that up so that it can find grip. And don't forget, a lot of that grip and a lot of that compliance is relative to the wider rear tyre. And in the same way that you can register a trials bike for the road, you fit the lights to it, you can get these registered for the road, and dealers can carry that out for you.
There's no smoke and mirrors here. No, Kawasaki have come into this and basically just stated this is a cross-country bike. So, it could be for you or it may not be for you. For me, I actually felt that the bike was brilliant today. I rode a Kawasaki 250 just recently, the motocross bike, and was surprised at how much I did actually like that bike and enjoy the bike. Today's been no different on the X, the 250X. So the suspension has been revalved and been resprung. Pretty much everything else is near enough the same, other than the 18-inch rear wheel. So what did I feel regarding with the bike? Totally honest, from where I was riding over the rocks and kind of little nudgery stuff, I felt that the bike, one, needed to be bedded in, because we was blessed by riding brand new bikes. So thank you very much. That's, you know, there's nothing worse than getting on an old knacker. And second of all, I just felt that the suspension, for that type of terrain or feel, you'd benefit by softening it up. So that's exactly what I did. I didn't go extreme. I just went a few clicks and just wanted that little bit of a floaty feeling, you know, over some of the terrain. And that's exactly what we got. But again, suspension is so specific to each and every one of us that, you know, I could comment regarding on suspension and give you some settings or feedback, but let's be honest, most people now, they go and take their suspension, they get it fine-tuned, or they tweak it from track to track, or they get a really good base setting and they're happy at leaving it and just going, you know, one click here and one click there. The suspension for me definitely was click sensitive, so that is a massive plus, because there's nothing worse than going 4 or 5 clicks and not really feeling anything. Again, so the 250, for me, that was actually was probably the best bike to ride out of the range, if I'm honest. The 450 bags of power, probably too much. Certainly in some of the sections that I was riding, I just felt that the bike was just maybe, dare I say it was maybe just a little bit too heavy for in some of the tight wooded sections that I was riding, and I felt that on some of the surfaces that I was riding on one of the rock climbs that we was doing, the bike just felt just basically felt like it had loads of power, which it did, and could get you into trouble a little bit easy. So for me, that bike there, you know, that would be perfect out in the open, and it would definitely, if I was to use it as a cross-country bike slash enduro bike, I would definitely be fine-tuning it and taming the motor down. If I was using it for a cross-country bike slash motocross bike, it's a winner. Perfect. But going back to the 250, on the 250, I just felt like that was a perfect all-round bike, other than the suspension. Because obviously the CC being key, right in the ballpark for most of us, if we're honest, it was perfect. It was light, it was nimble, it could track up the rock climb easily, you know, and there was bags of power. Both bikes were very responsive as well, which is good. So you could have some fun, you know, over some of the bumps, popping, just doubling through a bumpy straight section, or just picking the front wheel up and wheeling over the bumps. You know, it really allowed you to have fun on the bike. A negative for me, again, just going back to the 450 as it just popped into my brain, was I found that because you was going at a lower RPM on the 450 to make a few manoeuvres through the woods, I did actually stall it and thought it would be a little bit too easy to stall. And I did that as well also on one of the kind of just like rutted, slightly uphill climbs that I rode up and kind of had to stop, check myself and get going again. On the 250, you know, that it didn't stall, it was always kind of in that right rev range, and letting the bike do the drive, letting the rear wheel do all the work. So the verdict on both bikes, brilliant to see Kawasaki, first of all, doing these tests. Second of all, entering into a new market with their model of bike, and it, you know, again, I think sometimes they get forgotten about a little bit, especially in the UK, and they shouldn't be, because the bikes are great. There's always, what should I say, a solid feel when you're riding on the Kawasaki. Everything just feels right. It feels light, nimble, easy, quite flickable, and just an overall brilliant package of a machine. Again, you know, this is an X model, so it is designed for the cross country. But if you do some enduros where you are going onto the road, or you do fancy taking either model down to the shops, Kawasaki are selling a lighting kit, and then you can go and go and get the bike road registered, no problem. I had a lot of fun today, and I had a lot of fun on the bikes and at the venue. Yes, the 250 was very light and flickable, and that was my favourite bike. But in saying that, it was really nice to ride just the 450 at the end of the day and just popping and doing just a few different things with that extra power up being available, and making the job a little bit easier. So for some of the, let's say if you was going through the woods and there was lots of roots or rock beds, we would definitely be suppressing the power, that's for sure. But at the same time, if we're out in the open fields, or we've got some nice little sections that you can flip and play off, I had a lot of fun on the 450, just kind of not off piece, but just away from the normal track, you know, and just having some fun. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, isn't it? You know, we just want weekends of fun. I know things are getting more and more expensive, let's be honest, but that's worldwide. These bikes coming in at, both bikes coming in from £8,000 to £8,500. I think that's reasonably priced. If you put the lighting kit on the 250X, then the bike's going to come in at £8,500. If you put it onto the 450, then it's just going to come, under that 9K bracket. So not only is the lighting kit good value for money, but so are the bikes.